All right, let's begin. Let's recognize the basic state together. Remain open throughout the retreat. Remain open for the transmission. I often use the analogy that you can sit with me as if we were sitting over a coffee table, just hanging out, just feeling the presence of each other. What is Dharma? Dharma is teaching of reality. Practicing the Dharma means learning how to recognize the reality of ourselves. Learning how to recognize the reality of everything, all things. So this is what Dharma practice means. This is what yoga means. Learning to recognize reality of ourselves and all life. When we know ourselves, then we automatically see the reality of everything else. So these are not two different things I'm talking about. And also it's important to point out that Dharma is about existential matters. So the context is existential confusion and seeing through that confusion caused by the sense of self. And when we see through it, then we see the reality of ourselves. That is not imagined or believed, it is seen. On the surface, in our mind, we have thoughts, thinking, thought associations, we have emotions, we have reactions, we have all this happening all the time. Whether we are awake, in waking mode during the days, and also in the night. We have dreams that are the thoughts when we sleep. So it's like a pretty much constant movement of things. But nevertheless, when there is movement, there is also stillness that never leaves us. Recognize that stillness that never leaves you. So you just shift your attention from all those movements of thought, emotions, to stillness. Calm peace. You feel that stillness. This penetrating peacefulness. Feeling it, recognizing it with your whole body. It is there already. You just have to recognize that it's there, that it's with us. It is a kind of peace that doesn't need to be generated or accumulated. This is very, very important to understand, not to confuse our Ati Yoga practice with shamatha, because that's a very different thing. So there is this peacefulness, this kind of peacefulness that completely fills you, completely covers us. It can feel that when we shift our attention from those movements. I was thinking of the word oscillations. Oscillation means this. So when we shift our attention from those movements to this stillness, peacefulness, it can feel like arriving at the bottom of the sea, where nothing moves. This is a very simple exercise and not difficult, unless you're extremely nervous. But nevertheless, this peacefulness of the natural state never leaves us, never goes away. Another thing that is very important is not to perceive this peacefulness separate from myself or yourself. So see if this peacefulness actually has also a knowing quality to it. It knows itself. Or you can see if there's a distance between myself and the peace, or if there is no distance between the two. So what are we doing here? So a simple yet complete definition of Dharma is to understand the reality of ourselves instead of being confused about our existence. Are we not doing exactly that right now? Recognizing the reality of being. That knows itself, that is full of aliveness, is rich with life, and is grounded or peaceful. if at any point during the retreat, during meditations, if you feel physical discomfort, numbness, aches, pains, anything, change or adjust posture. Also, a little bit of instructions about sleepiness or drowsiness. If you can fall asleep during the practice so that it doesn't sweep away conscious recognition, that is perfectly fine. If you can fall asleep being aware of it. But if the drowsiness gets you, it disturbs that conscious recognition, then you should wake yourself up. You can do this by doing few Vajra bodies, for example. You can do this by tensing the muscles of the body. You can do this by shaking the body vigorously. Or you can take few fast, like wrathful Vajra breaths, bellows breaths. Or you can even stand up and continue the practice standing up until drowsiness passes. What can also be done if drowsiness is a nuisance, that if it continues from one session to another, you can take a cold shower or splash cold water on your face and ears. So even though sleep yoga, falling asleep, being aware of it, is a practice of its own that can be learned. Retreats where you are getting instructions and advice is not the time to practice it, because if you fall asleep, you're not hearing what I say. As we are practicing Ati Yoga, it means that we have an absolute view regarding bodhicitta, regarding the motivation of Mahayana practice. And this means that all beings are already included in this recognition. We are recognizing that basic space that is utterly peaceful, undisturbed by distortions created by the ego or self. All beings already in it. But like I often say, generating bodhicitta, when and if we haven't yet reached the end of emptiness practice, is an excellent way to check and enhance our Ati Yoga practice. Because when we express compassionate motivation, when we express that we are practicing Dharma to become Buddhas for the sake of all beings, it opens up our subtle body. So let's do this. Let's say a prayer. I am practicing the Dharma to attain Buddhahood, both its stages, emptiness body and light body, for the sake of all sentient beings. I am practicing for the sake of all sentient beings. I am practicing to attain full enlightenment for the sake of everybody else. So when we practice Hatha Yoga, bodhicitta is an excellent way to, like I said, to help us recognize the Buddha within or to enhance our recognition. Helping us recognize is pre-11th Bhumi opening instruction. Enhancing is post-11th Bhumi opening instruction. So bodhicitta can be used as a technique to help us have a sustained recognition of the basic state, or the same can be done for example through shouting hung pets or doing a series of vajra bodies. Whatever is your favorite technique or techniques, use them. So recognizing peace within, this immense peacefulness that penetrates, covers our whole being, peacefulness that knows itself. It is not experienced by somebody. It's not somebody having the experience of peacefulness. It is just peacefulness, knowing itself. I am trying to point to this experience. I noticed a couple of you when I said that it's peacefulness knowing itself. I noticed a couple of you opening your eyes that, what? Was I supposed to what? It's okay, I'll clarify these points during the next couple of days. Just sit with me over the coffee table. You can check if this peace, if this groundedness, if it feels incomplete or complete. Recognizing this basic peacefulness with your whole being. It means that all those movements, currents, dissolve in that peacefulness. Dissolves. Relaxing your breathing. The body knows how to breathe. So letting the body do just that. Recognizing peace that is already in us. That doesn't need to be generated or accumulated, like accumulating a heap of stones or pebbles, not like that. Peace that is already in us. Maybe when you recognize the basic state through the pointer of peacefulness, you start, oh, it feels so, oh, feels very peaceful. You know, if you start getting sleepy, pay attention in that case more to the clarity of it, sharpness of it. Sleepy, drowsy means blunt, but there's sharpness, clarity. What is also useful for a moment to spend a moment in, how should I say, emulating the mind that thinks and feels, kind of bringing it back. Just imagine how we are all our self-grasping, self-delusion is expressed through our thinking actions and feeling actions. So imagine from this peacefulness, those movements of the mind, and compare the two. How does peacefulness relate to this basic peacefulness, relate to those movements? How does it relate? How the two relate? Now, when we are practicing sitting quietly, or how would it work when being at work, for example, when being active doing something? Why do we get confused? How does it all work? And now that for a moment you've compared the basic peacefulness with typical movements of the mind, then you can imagine how would it feel like to both recognize this basic peacefulness and be active externally, doing things, meeting people, taking care of responsibilities, just everyday activity. Imagine that. How would it feel like to live in and from that recognition? Get some sense of it. And recognizing with the whole body and the peacefulness and wakefulness. Peacefulness, peace that is complete, doesn't lack anything, lacks nothing. And because it doesn't lack anything, there's beauty in it. Can you relate to that? Beauty. If at any point you get distracted, you find yourself having gotten caught by some thought or train of thoughts. Is that how you say it? Train of thoughts? Anyway, like a chain of thoughts, one thought coming after the other, or first having a thought and then associating to something else. If you get distracted like this, this is one way to practice vipassana, emptiness meditation, what I'm about to say. So in that case, sooner or later you become aware of the fact that I've gotten distracted to thinking, to remembering, planning stuff, whatever it is. Then recognize that peacefulness again, and then immediately look back to that thought or thoughts that made you distracted, and find that same peacefulness, ground peacefulness from those thoughts. It is there, you just have to see it. When in Buddhism we talk about emptiness of phenomena, it means literally thoughts, emotions, perceptions. So how we see emptiness, selflessness of phenomena is by seeing that this same knowingness, aliveness, peacefulness is in all of those phenomena. Any thought, any emotion, any reaction that happens in the mind, any subtle energy, anything. And what Buddhist meditation is all about is reintegration, integrating the spoiled bits, the self-charged bits back into this basic state. Liberating, releasing them in a sense. And that's how they become reintegrated. And that is deeply satisfying and empowering, because that's what knowing oneself means, as defined in yoga and dharma. So the instruction is very simple, it's easy to understand, but it takes practice to really understand, to have experience of this simple instruction and theory. But it's a very fulfilling and a wonderful journey. Sometimes it's very difficult. Sometimes it's I was gonna say a bitch, but I don't mean to be sexist. Sometimes men can be bitches too. So now I evened out the sexism. It got a little bit out of hand right there. I apologize. But you get the point. Sometimes practice, continuing it, is a great challenge, because we are actually working with the inner demons of anger, anxiety, hatred, and so on, greed, jealousy, some undefined pains. But at the same time, it gets easier and easier if we practice correctly, if we understand the theory, we understand what is it that we are supposed to do, then it gets easier and easier over months and years. Another way of describing the instruction of Vipassana is that if you get distracted into thinking, planning, and so on, you just recognize that peacefulness again. And from that peacefulness, in the best of your ability, you let all those thoughts, emotions, these things, these phenomena come, stay, and go. And you're simply aware of it. Perfectly aware of it. What does it mean being perfectly aware? It means that, our aura, meaning our mind, is like a three-dimensional space. Just like we are now you're sitting in the room where you are sitting, that's a physical three-dimensional space. You there have tables, chairs, you have different objects, physical objects in that room. In the same way, our mind, meaning our aura, is a non-physical three-dimensional space where three-dimensional non-physical mind objects come and go, come and go. Because we are talking about a non-physical thing, the mind, that's why it's a bit tricky. Because we don't actually, well, in some way we do see our thoughts and emotions, but because they are not physically seen objects, they are abstract, non-physical. That's what it makes it a bit challenging. But it's possible to learn to notice. It's possible to train ourselves to better and better be able to see and detect what happens in the mind. And this is what we need to do also. Because if we are unable to perceive what goes on in the mind, we can't see through those phenomena that arise and makes us confused. So we do need to have kind of, insects have meters on their head, and they use those meters to catch vibrations, and in that same way our meters need to be fine-tuned. I'm talking about a really simple thing here. I'm talking about this emptiness meditation that is a process of reintegrating self mind objects that are colored and flavored with the artificial flavor of meanness back into this Buddha nature. That is our true nature. This is actually a very simple thing. But like I said, it takes practice and repetition to really get it, to really make it our own. But it's doable. I don't know how many thousands and thousands, maybe millions of people have done this before us and have attained complete liberation or Buddhahood. Countless men and women before us. Some of these we know by name. For example, Guru Rinpoche, Yeshe Tsogyal, Gampopa, Milarepa, Jesus Christ, and so on, Krishna, and so on. There is no other way to knowledge of ourselves except through our delusions, through the shadows, through the confusions. And this means always illuminating, bringing awareness, recognizing that peacefulness in whatever form the I, the me takes. So I was talking about the non-physical three-dimensional space of the mind, or the aura. So, when you settle, the ability to perceive the mind and the aura varies from people to person. Somebody who is very sensitive, to such people, normal living can be overwhelming because there's too much sensitivity. But for some people, it's very easy to actually see when there's a thought arising in the mind and it comes into the conscious mind, and then you start thinking about it. For some people, it's very easy to actually see these three-dimensional little objects called thoughts and emotional states in the mind, in the aura. But after a couple of days of meditation, it's usually quite easy for anybody that you can actually perceive these smaller or bigger objects kind of floating in the inner space. Some of them float and move quickly, some of them slowly, some are smaller, some are bigger. The texture of some is very kind of hard, kind of thick, while some objects are very kind of loose. What's the opposite of hard? You get what I mean. Some of them have different kind of color, maybe darker color, brighter color, lighter color. So these things, these are the phenomena that I'm talking about. And being aware of whatever is happening in the mind. So we are simply aware of this space inside and outside of our physical body. That's where the mind is. And that's where our self-delusion is. And that's where we need to uproot it. Is that the word? Uproot? Dig the roots out by seeing through these self-charged mind objects. So what I'm describing here is very basic Vipassana practice. You observe the mind, the comings and goings of various mind objects, their size, their tone, their feel, their texture, their flavor. And simply being aware of them. And what I already said, I'll rephrase it, trying to see into the heart, into the center, into the middle of all those objects. Seeing, perceiving what's in the middle of them. Seeing if the same basic peacefulness, basic aliveness, basic cognizance can be recognized. This is basic Vipassana practice in a sutra way. Sutra Vipassana. Then there's Tantric Vipassana. But we need to have a good understanding of Sutric Vipassana to really understand how Tantra works. Because Tantric practice, it speeds up things. And often it is the case that when, especially, beginners, they might overdo Tantric practice. And then there might be overwhelming amount of mind objects. But if you don't know what to do with them, how to see through them, if you don't know that you're supposed to use that material for insight practice, seeing inside those objects, then I don't know what to do with all this. Rinpoche, I have a dark night. What is going on? I don't understand. It's making me miserable. So this is what we are supposed to do. That's how it all works. What is also the case from the beginning to the very end of mind purification, of emptiness practice, is that it's the same stuff from beginning to end. It's the same self-charged emotional states from beginning to end. But the texture of them changes greatly. In the beginning, it's very gross anger, for example, gross anxiety. But then it gets finer and finer grade as the purification of mind advances. So when you're working to perfect, let's say, 8th, 9th, 10th Bhumi terrain, then it's very fine grain. Very fine grain. I remember in elementary school when we had woodworking, there was these sandpapers that had 2000 fineness. And it was almost like paper. Very fine sandpapers. That's a good analogy. So, as tantrics, we do all these tantric practices with visualizations, with breath work, with mudras, with mantras. But this is really essential, what we have covered in this session, Sutric Vipassana. There are tons of books about Vipassana, really good ones. But basically I would recommend you to also to read some books about Vipassana. There are different emphases on Vipassana practice, different techniques to do it. What I've described here, what I've instructed here is one way to practice Vipassana. And I think that I will add something to this probably over the weekend. Let's change the perspective a little bit. Back to that peacefulness. that is completely filled with light, playfulness, and richness. And this is who every one of us is, who we are. So again, it's not me having the experience of peacefulness. It is me who is this peace and playfulness, light playfulness. Again, we are sitting over a coffee table, you and me, just enjoying coffee, enjoying a moment together, feeling each other's energy, feeling each other's presence. And in fact, everybody else is also sharing this moment. All sentient beings. So may the blessings radiate out to all sentient beings. And may these blessings, may the pure energy, blessings that are sent out, may they reach the center of the minds of all beings, where the self sits. Where the I, where the me sits. May all beings be free of self-based suffering. May all beings be happy. May all beings truly be happy. If beings are free and happy, they are not causing problems for themselves or others. So I think there's quite a bit to do. In the world, I mean. When you can kind of visualize or feel this, but you can simply feel other humans around you, the animal world around you, all living beings, other living beings around you. Or you can visualize how there are all kinds of physical beings around you, other kinds of beings around you. You can kind of intuit or visualize. And then let's chant, may all beings be free, together. May all beings be free. 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 Letting that prayer reverberate like a stone thrown into the surface of the water, letting the prayer, letting it go, sending it out to all those beings around us. Beautiful. There's something very beautiful, very brave, fearless and strong in bodhicitta, isn't there? You might feel heat during these sessions also. In that case, you can perhaps open the buttons of your shirt, or if you have heavy clothes on, take them off to leave the heat out. And this is the heat generated by Shakti, spiritual energy. They call it tummo in Tibetan. Tummo. I think, I'm not sure if it's right, but on the Hindu side of things they speak of tapas. No, that's not right. It's something else. Well, I forgot it. Anyway, there's a word for that in Hindu yogas as well. Maybe it actually is tapas. So heat is a good thing, and it will never become an uncomfortable heat or like hot energy. It will never develop into that when we are talking about a real, authentic tantric practice. All right, let's chant Bodhisattva vows. I vow to liberate all sentient beings. I vow to end all self-based confusion. I vow to exercise the Dharma that frees. I vow to attain the great perfection. I vow to liberate all sentient beings. I vow to end all self-based confusion. I vow to exercise the Dharma that frees. I vow to attain the great perfection. I vow to liberate all sentient beings. I vow to end all self-based confusion. I vow to exercise the Dharma that frees. I vow to attain the great perfection. Letting go of Bodhisattva vows and feeling the Bodhisattva vows. Feeling what it means to be a Bodhisattva. Being of awakening. Person of awakening. I take refuge in the Guru, his pure land, Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. Literally like that. Let's chant. I take refuge in the Guru, his pure land, Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. I take refuge in the Guru, his pure land, Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. I take refuge in the Guru, his pure land, Dharma and Sangha. I am the Guru, I'm in the pure land. I am the Buddha, I am the Dharma, I am the Sangha, I am the Guru, I'm in the pure land. I am the Buddha, I am the Dharma, I am the Sangha, I am the Guru, I'm in the pure land. I am the Buddha, I am the Dharma, I am the Sangha. feel it. Excellent prayers that reveal Buddha nature and the bodies of the Buddha. Then bodhicitta. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. All beings. All beings are free. All beings are free. All beings are free. And dedication. May all beings receive my accumulated merit. I dedicate the merit to the refuge and to all sentient beings. Joining hands. So there we covered actually quite a bit of things. Recognizing the basic state, aka Buddha nature, aka Buddha within, and also we went through some basic Vipassana instructions. And I will, like I said, I will probably give a little variations over the weekend for Vipassana practice. How do you feel? Any comments?
I have a question.
Yes?
Yes, about what we just did in that Vipassana. If I feel that a thought is coming and I have the option not to grab it, but in this exercise, is it actually better to grab it so that I can see through it or not?
What do you mean by grabbing it?
Well, the thought is here and I could ignore it also,
Yes.
but is it better to, um, I mean, to think it through?
Um, so, okay. So, uh, just let it be there in the field of awareness. Just let it be included in your experience. If it actually, something that I wasn't clear about in that last session was that when I was doing this with my hands indicating the appearing of thoughts, this can also happen inside the body. So it can be felt that these mind objects are kind of here, out there in the aura, kind of outside the body, or inside the body. So it doesn't matter which one, the practice is the same in both, but you just remain aware of when these things arise, come and go, and when they don't. When they don't,
Okay, but I don't have to invite it closer.
no, no, not necessarily. Just let it be as it is. Just let it be as it comes and goes. You don't have to grab it like this and pull it near you or anything like this, nor push it away. Just let it be. And
Okay,
whether,
thanks.
yeah, 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 good. Ben sent a question about the time zone thing. Uh, there might have been a mix-up because recently, like a couple of weeks ago, Finland went to summertime again. So maybe some time zone converters didn't have it updated, but yes. So it's was 8 p.m. EET Eastern European Time this evening, and 3 p.m. EET Saturday, Sunday, and days after that. 3 p.m. EET. How do you feel? Some of you I haven't been able to see in the last hour or so because it got dark and there's no light. So switch on the light tomorrow.
Alright, so I felt kind of nervous and also excited beforehand, and then now I feel calm. So which is usually what happens, but it's good.
It's a nice feeling when I think initially I might have been working a lot with emotions and now more energy. I came to realize that in the last few weeks. It's just interesting to note.
Ah, yes, yes. Yeah, it's getting deeper a little bit. From the form to formless, illuminating both. And I briefly mentioned the going gross to subtle and very subtle in mind purification. You could say that it's like that. Even though, as long as, one still has any karmas to release, any selves to release, even very subtle, it also takes forms in the mind. So it's like forms in the mind objects, and then subtle energy. So yeah, it's good. Liz, please.
I really liked after we generated bodhicitta and we were doing the chanting, and you said, when we generate bodhicitta and send out compassion, it makes us brave and fearless and strong.
Mm.
And it really hit me how when I think about doing stuff for other people and helping other people, I actually feel that. And I thought about that for a moment, and then I went, I need to do that with self-compassion as well. It's the same thing. And it just made me feel that that's the key. That's the key to feeling stronger and braver. For myself is it's part of bodhicitta, it's part of compassion for other people and for myself. And it just felt so strong. So thank you. It was very helpful.
Mm. Yeah, as long as it's when that braveness or fearlessness, as long as it's a recognition that is non-conceptual rather than a thought in the mind, then it's all good. But if it is, I will be brave, I will be fearless, I will be brave, if it's like this, then not the same thing. Do you understand?
Do you mean that it's just all part of it? It's just all part of the compassion. It's like, as part of the compassion, there is bravery, and like it's just with it.
Yes, absolutely. Exactly.
It's part of when we say, may all beings be free. We want it so much that we would stand up for it. Is that what you mean? That it's like, it's just an integral part of it.
Yes and no. So being fearless, it's fearlessness is how to say, it's an aspect, it's a quality of Buddha nature itself, fearlessness. So that's what I mean, that rather than using affirmations in the mind, okay, today I will be fearless and I will be brave for the sake of others, that's all. If we use affirmations, we think about it, we make that thought stronger, that's not it. It's rather recognizing this Buddha within that is already brave and fearless. It doesn't need to be generated, accumulated. It's already the case, and it only needs to be recognized. All right. Nice to see a good solid group of how many? 21, 22, 23, 23, and I think it's 24 or 25 tomorrow altogether. So it's a good solid group for this retreat. So yes, we will continue tomorrow. We will continue where we leave off this evening. So have a nice day or have a nice evening. And thanks for this start. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. And please be on time. Be on time, 5 minutes early, if at all possible, so that everybody is together already when we start. Okay? Cheers, everybody. Bye. Bye for now.